I wanted to give a review of the book Halo Outcasts. And if you haven't read the book yet, it's okay. I'm not going to spoil anything for you. I'm just going to give you guys my general opinions and some of the things I liked, and unfortunately, a lot of the things I didn't like about this one. Now, I've been reading Halo books for a long time. As a matter of fact, all I read is Halo books. I got a Kindle. I got my Jerome sticker on the cover to distinguish it from my wife's Kindle, which doesn't have a sticker on it because she's not a 7-year-old boy. And so all I read is Halo stuff, right? That's all I'm into. Halo Outcast just came out. On the cover, it shows the Arbiter standing with Spartan Vale. Yes, the same Spartan Vale from Fireteam Osiris, which tried to hunt down the Master Chief in Halo 5 Guardians. So she's one of the many characters that her story has continued on, particularly with Troy Denning's work. The book was released on August 8th, 2023. It was supposed to be released sometime in the past. There's a lot of delays, supply chain issue. He had some health issues. It took him a while to kind of figure out what they wanted to do. But the book is now upon us. Do I recommend it to you? Yes, but because I'm a Halo fan, I'm going to recommend anything Halo to you. The thing I will say is this. Halo books are phenomenal at bridging major thematic gaps in the Halo universe. And if you don't read the Halo books, there's a lot of times you're not going to understand anything that's going on because the games only show these snapshots in time. The books are there to fill in the pieces, to extend this metaverse, this, broad cinematic universe of all things Halo, to fill in the gaps of some of the characters and the motivations. So when you're playing Halo 5 Guardians and you're hearing about this big bad Julam Dama guy, right? And of course, you whack him in the first level because 343 has no idea how to write a story. A lot of people are like, oh, Jul Adama dies. He was a major player in the books for a very long time. So a lot of these characters are much more fleshed out. This book was supposed to, at least advertised, fill in the gaps leading up to Halo Infinite. So I'm going to set the stage for you. And we don't really have a lot of time in really kind of what happened. We've just seen the aftermath of what happened. But keep in mind, you had Halo 5 Guardians, which Master Chief, goes off and Cortana goes into full rampancy. And then somehow aligns herself with, this AI. I mean, she is AI, but she aligns herself with other AI. And I'm not going to get into the weeds on how all that works. I could. That's not the point of this video. But eventually, she takes control of the Guardians, which are this ancient weapon that she declares martial law in the entire galaxy. She shuts everything down. You hear a lot of AI, like Governor Sloan that we met in Halo 5 Guardians, leave Meridian. He joins her. A lot of other AI joins her. And she basically declares the galaxy is now going to go under martial law. That's how the book, or that's how the game ends. We pick up with the next sequeled installment, Halo Infinite. And now Atriox and the Banished have showed up. And Master Chief and the UNSC has lost the war. And, oh, by the way, Atriox's home planet of Doizak has been destroyed. And, oh, by the way, Cortana's not a threat anymore. And we find a Guardian, if you go look in Halo Infinite, there's actually the Hulk of a Guardian laying there. So it's like, whoa, is Atriox powerful enough to destroy Guardians? Like, we know the Banished are very, very menacing foes. So there's this big gap of time, and that's what this book was advertised to kind of talk about, was that gap of time. Like, oh, this is great. So the book features Spartan Vale and the Arbiter, and also a little bit of Atriox. He's sprinkled in there, not quite as much as the other two characters. But it involves them going to a planet in which there is a weapon supposedly there that is powerful enough to destroy the Guardians. So that's pretty cool. It's like, okay, Now I can start putting the pieces together in my head. We already know the end, right? I just told you what the end was. The UNSC's in shambles. Atriox has soundly defeated the Master Chief. The UNSC Infinity is on flames and basically blows up. We don't know what happens to it. And there's a downed Guardian, and Cortana is not a threat anymore. So clearly this weapon is going to be mind-blowingly awesome, and they're going to fight over it. I assume Atriox is going to win, because he seemed to pretty soundly kick everyone's ass at the beginning of Halo Infinite. And that's what this book is going to fill in. It doesn't fill that in. And I think that's a major, major misstep. Now, what this book does talk about is what that weapon is in a roundabout way, and kind of what the purpose and the origination of the weapon is, who's controlling it now. And it turns into a kind of history and lore dump on how the weapon works. And obviously the UNSC is trying to fight for it. The remnants of the Swords of St. Helios, led under the Arbiters, fighting for it. So you're having all these forces, and Atriox obviously, are all trying to converge on this weapon. The problem is, after you finish reading the book, and I said there wasn't going to be spoilers, and I'm sticking to my word. But after you finish reading the book, I'm not sure you're going to be thoroughly convinced you still know what happens. And that is a big misstep. If this book is just going to be a story, just a Halo story, just about a Spartan that just so happens to be pivotal to some of the games, that's totally fine. There's a lot of really good Halo books out there that are just stories that don't really have anything to do with the game, that just tell different snippets of, you know, the precursors, or little snippets of the Forerunner technology, or we're introduced to new characters that have their own plights, like Spartan Naomi as part of like the Kilo 6 trilogy, for example, right? She doesn't really matter outside of that story, we think. Maybe she'll come into play later, or Jul 'Mdama, as I just mentioned at the beginning of this video. But there's a lot of other characters that exist that can totally exist in the world. But when this book is advertised as filling in the gap, and it doesn't fill in the gap, it feels kind of like a bait and switch. And it's difficult to basically promote this book and say, yes, you must go read it. If you're a diehard lore nerd like me, and you're really interested in some of the really deep findings and trying to start to piece out other parts of the Halo universe, absolutely read this book. Definitely read the last little snippet at the end. It will thoroughly blow your mind on what you think you understand. No, I'm getting the hiccups. It will thoroughly blow your mind on what you think happens to Halo. It's so mind-blowing that 343 Creative came out on the Discord and basically said, hey, wait a minute. This isn't the linchpin that we wanted it to be. And while that is important, we're not spinning the whole world on the axis of this. So Troy basically went off and wrote this crazy, crazy thing. And 343 is like, wait a minute. We didn't sign up for that. We'll see where it goes. I'll say that. That is definitely the most exciting of anything in this book. But the actual contents of the book, watching Spartan Vale meet up with other people and work her way through kind of the buddy cop stuff that she has going on with Arby, the deep mutual respect they have for each other, Arby's plight himself, and actually trying to still remain, pick up the pieces of the Fallen Covenant and, really establish himself as a voice of reason going in the future. That's all fine and well. But at the end of the book, you're not still going to be able to just immediately play Halo Infinite and go, I got it. And yes, I know there is another book that is in between all of this, but that book does not do a very good job either of explaining the Cortana piece. It does not do a very good job of explaining the Atriox piece. All it talks about is some of the UNSC survivors that you do discover inside of the Halo Infinite campaign. Their backstory is fleshed out. Fascinating read, but we're still missing that point in which Atriox now has the power he needs, we assume it's him, to take down all of Cortana's massive Guardian force, and I just didn't feel it from here. So that's why it's hard to recommend as a standalone book. If you've never read anything about Halo before, I think you'll find it enjoyable because it's a well-written story. And he does a very good job of kind of piecing together things that are very abstract, but explaining them in a non-abstract way that makes you kind of think. And it's got some really good sci-fi vibes to it. Unfortunately, as with most of these books, the Spartan legacy is so great and rich. You never really feel that Spartan Vale is in ever any danger because Spartans are so revered, even by alien races. They're referred to as the demons. I mean, John, Sierra 117 is the demon, but the whole Spartan group obviously being demons, and, being very revered and feared throughout the galaxy. You never really feel ever like she's in danger, but you never really feel like that in a lot of the other Halo books. It's just more of the personal conflict and her way of handling the trauma that comes, because there's a lot of trauma. And they kind of glance over that a little bit too. There was parts where I was reading the book and I was like, wait, did that just happen? And everybody just seems to accept it. Pretty significant outcome of this book, but unfortunately doesn't bridge the gap. So on this one, there are definitely other better reads out there, and I will continue to read them and give reviews on ones that I think are worth your while. But as far as this one goes, I think if you just found the appendix online and you read that little snippet and your mind just blows away with new thoughts, you're probably fine with that. So that's my thoughts on Halo Outcasts, released August 8th, 2023 by Troy Denning. I read it on Kindle, but I'm sure you can pick up a hard copy somewhere. Thank you guys so much for watching. Take care of yourselves, and until next time, I will see you guys on the other side.